What's up, y'all? Uncharted: The Lost Legacy hit about a week ago, and I wanted to talk about it, you know? So, heck, I'm not scripting this, so we're just going to talk about it. This would have been a formal warning to have PlayStation, but I haven't reviewed the other games, and it would have felt weird to me to hop in with this one and do that, so this is just going to be loose, it's just going to flow, and probably... Yeah, we'll just say spoiler warning up front. I may just randomly drop spoilers, so if you haven't played the game, or if you care about that kind of stuff, it's best to bounce and come back later. So Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, that came out, oh heck, was it last Tuesday? Yeah, August 22nd. I feel like there wasn't a lot of, I don't want to say not a lot of hype, but I feel like leading up to release, barely anyone was talking about it, and since release, I've only seen people talking about it if I sought them out and then asked them about it, because I'm not sure if it was a marketing thing or a perception of the game thing, but this game just kind of came and went, you know? Like, it's a new Naughty Dog game, it's another Uncharted, and it's just like nothing. Maybe I'm just in the wrong circles, though. But Uncharted: Lost Legacy, it stars Chloe from Uncharted 2, popped up in 3, and Nadine, who debuted in 4, and just like overall quick thing, or quick like impression of the game as a whole, I guess. I liked it more than I thought I would. I don't think it's something you necessarily need to rush out and drop however much money it costs in your territory. I don't think it's like, you know, for Uncharted 4 when that came out, I would have definitely said go for that if you like the series. But for Lost Legacy, it's like, you know, it'll be there when you get to it, and when you do get to it, you're going to have a good time. But it's a very solid experience, but it's not a very, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like a must-play, like, drop everything, it's a busy month, set aside everything else kind of thing. It's just like, you know, red box it or pick it up in a few weeks when you get to it, and you'll have a good time, but... you know, I mean, overall, it's tough. It's like Naughty Dog consistently put out games that are of a very high, you know, technical quality, very, very polished. They kind of have a reputation for being one of the best studios in the world for a reason, right? So for this to come out and just kind of be solid, it's interesting to me, but I don't think it's a bad thing, and I kind of wonder if maybe this is an experiment to kind of put out shorter, more focused games every now and then have one big game the bulk of the studio kind of focuses on, I guess. But arguably also this was made easier. You know, it started development like what? No, I guess it didn't start development 15 months ago. Uncharted 4 came out 15 months ago, but you know, the pipelines were there for this, so maybe that's what helped it. It's interesting to me, but it's tough because, like, every aspect, I wrote down some things to help me kind of keep my focus here. Obviously, that's not working well so far. I kind of wrote down some things, and I wanted to mention it. And every one of these things is just coming up as good and well done, but not so well done that I have to, like, sit here and sing its praises, you know? So I'll just go down in order. Like, first off, I just want to talk about Chloe and Nadine. It's nice to see Chloe, you know, I think maybe, I don't even remember, I'm not sure if she was even alluded to in 4, maybe she was, like, mentioned in passing at some point, or, like, her name was written down somewhere. I think they did that for the Vita, the Golden Abyss girl, but, you know, it's good to see her back. She's more fun than ever, a lot less sexualized this time, which I appreciated. It was nice to see her as, like, a full character and not an interesting character, and also, oh, she's Drake's, like, side love interest, right? Nadine, I liked her a lot more after this game. I felt in 4 she showed up, and her character showed, I think, so sparingly in comparison to what I was hoping for with all the pre-release talk about her, that this game, I guess all along they were planning on this game to flesh her out more, because Nadine, after Uncharted 4, it was like, oh, she just kind of, oh, well, I mean, cool, but after Lost Legacy, it's like, okay, there's like a character here, Obviously, great foil against Chloe because she's more stern and serious, but she lets her fun side through now and then, and she has some quick judgment calls that kind of cloud her vision. But you know, like, once again, for Uncharted, great character work. Honestly, bulk of the reason why I play Uncharted is for the characters, and I think while Lost Legacy didn't hit a high bar I was kind of hoping it to, it still did pretty well. I feel like it's tough because I feel like sometimes Chloe, it's weird because, like, she's a lot like Nathan Drake in her personality, just with a more murky kind of moral compass, if that makes sense. Like, she's not afraid to do more risky things or darker things to get what she needs done, if that makes sense. But for the most part, she's still a wisecracking individual, you know, and I'm unsure if how I personally feel about that. You know, it's well done. I'm unsure if I appreciate that she's still so close to Nathan Drake, or maybe I kind of wish Nadine would have been the playable character with Chloe acting as the foil, just to get a really different take on Uncharted, if that makes sense. I'm curious what anyone watching this feels, because again, I really appreciate how it was done and what they did, but part of me thinks, like, if we're going to get Uncharted with a different main character, maybe someone more different would have been interesting. But that's not to say what's there isn't uninteresting, or wait, it's not to say what is there isn't interesting. There we go. Ooh, English. But I was just kind of hoping for... it feels like it just hits consistently, but there just should have been, like, a scene or two where it just really hit, you know? I feel like... And, you know, this is Chloe's first outing out, and if you look back to Uncharted 1, like, you didn't adore those characters after the first game. It was what 2 and 3 did to build on them that really helped you love them. And, you know, maybe there's a similar route that can be taken here. But I don't know. I guess just 4 set, in my opinion, such a high bar for, like, what Naughty Dog can do with characters in these games. And that it doesn't quite get there, I guess, is what I'm trying to communicate here. So, again, spoiler warning, you know, this is like late game plot I'm going to talk here, so if you don't want to hear that, you know, see you later. Sam Drake shows up just kind of randomly at the end, or near the end. They explain why he's there. I'm conflicted because I feel like, I'm not going to say they sold the game on this, but what was interesting about this Uncharted was it was like, oh, Uncharted without a Nathan Drake. And, like, to their credit, you know, they spend a couple minutes talking about him. Sam isn't even part of that conversation. Chloe and Nadine spend a couple minutes talking about him. But it's interesting that they still put a Drake into this game. And I think to that end, it works well because of the dynamic between him and Nadine. And I know a lot of hardcore fans actually don't like Sam Drake. I actually like him. But there's something about his characterization here where he just feels like the wisecrack, like, late game Disney movie insert, and I'm going to have to qualify that statement to help you know what I'm talking about. You know how in Treasure Planet there's a great narrative there, and then at the end that robot comes in and starts making, like, pop culture references and jokes, and you're just kind of like, oh, this is a little weird now. Sam Drake kind of reminded me of that, because, like, he pops in and he doesn't really do much else other than wisecrack, self-deprecate a little bit, and stuff. And it's interesting to see him play with Nadine as a character after 4, and it's interesting to see him with Chloe because this is the first time they've met and they don't really know each other, and I think all that stuff's interesting. And you know, frankly, like, I would have loved to have seen Cutter in this game. If Cutter had popped up there would not have been room for as much of the same impact. You know, like, story-wise, it would not have paid off or played as well. But I don't know. There's just something a little weird to me about Sam Drake coming in, because it feels... I don't know. He just feels too jokey. I know. I kind of wish they just toned that back in some and given a little more room, have him shown a bit more, like, an attempt to kind of connect with Nadine, if that makes sense. Because the whole time it's just like bickering or wisecracking, and it's like, okay, I get that that's this character, he's a Drake, but I just need a little more from him, you know? He almost feels like a parody in a way. It was weird. Maybe that's just me, but I don't know. Like, as soon as he got in, like, the tone of the game, it got interesting, but it also started feeling slightly weird after he was in there. As for the bad guy, Assad, I think he's one of the more solid villains. I'm glad you get to see him as much as you do. I think he has a great kind of presence on screen. I think the acting is really solid. It kind of has the issue of the usual Uncharted thing, where it's like, here's a bad guy with the military under him that's after the golden McGoogle, and you better get to it before he does, but uh-oh, he got it, uh-oh, and that's kind of the road it goes, and it's like, well, okay, but, you know, like, I mean, Uncharted really is usually more about the main characters and just how they play with the world, and not so much the villain. I think, like, I would put Lost Legacy's villain higher than Uncharted 2's Lazarevich, because Lazarevich, while threatening, I don't really remember much about him other than he was tall and had an accent and was evil. And Uncharted 1, I don't even remember that dude's name, so, like, Lost Legacy's already got a leg up on 2 of the villains from the series, if you ask me, so, you know. Again, it's like, I kind of wish you could have got a little more of him, or,
you're working for a thief.
You know, something, because, like, I like him, but I just wanted more of him, I guess. And this game is short, so I guess getting him in there too much may have been actually not that great, but they kind of, they poke at this notion for, like, a brief second when Chloe, Nadine, and this guy first run into each other in the game, of, like, Chloe's just trying to stall for time and, like, kind of playfully negotiate with the villain to, like, oh, you know, like, you might need someone like me, because obviously I can get shit done and I'm familiar with the topic, and your experts obviously aren't that great if it took them a week to do what I did in one day or something. So I was kind of hoping for a bit. Maybe this Assad guy would be like, you know what? I fucking hate what I'm about to say, and I don't really trust you, but what other option do I have? Come with me. Just so, like, for the first time in an Uncharted game, you could, like, play along with the villain for a bit and flesh him out a bit that way. Then have them split and continue the rest of the game as it did. I was kind of hoping they'd go that route, just because, you know, you get to spend time with the villains in Uncharted a little bit here and there throughout the series, but I feel like this would have been a nice way to help kind of stand it out some from the rest, and actually, you know, that's a cliche thing to do, but, you know, Uncharted is about cliches in some ways and just having fun with them. So I was kind of hoping for that. Next up, the visuals. I think in some spots it looks better than 4, which is saying something, and in some spots it looks a lot flatter than 4, which is also saying something. I really appreciated the chapter where it opens up. I call it the Final Fantasy 13 chapter, but, you know, it all opens up and you can kind of go slightly open world with things. I think everything there looked great. The temples all look great. The big secret area you get to a few hours before the game ends also looks fantastic. It's an Uncharted game. It's a Naughty Dog game, so it's going to look great. I was not disappointed by any aspect of that. As for the gameplay, it's more Uncharted 4. You know, that's pretty much the simplest way to put it. There's a buggy, there's climbing, there's puzzles and temples and stuff. They introduced a few new weapons. You know, there's like a silenced pistol. I didn't feel like it added too much, because the time I got around to using that, dudes were wearing helmets. So, you know, at some point I was just using the silenced pistol to take out guys with no helmets, and then trying to stealth around to the rest, because that was the funnest part about Uncharted 4's combat to me, was trying to stay in cover and do the silent takeouts. There's a lock-picking mechanic you do quite a bit of. It's very simple. You know, if it shows you how much I'm struggling to say what's new gameplay-wise here, like, there's that in that chapter which opens up, and that chapter is probably the biggest thing Uncharted Lost Legacy brings to the table. that chapter when it opens up, I don't know if I would want another, say, Uncharted game to take that and expand it more than that. I would like maybe another area like that throughout the game. I wouldn't like that to become the focus of the game. But for this one chapter, it's basically the Madagascar chapter from Uncharted 4, but blown up even more. There are like 11 optional like tokens you can try to get, and some of them are for doing puzzles, and some of them are for kind of rolling up on a camp and taking out the dudes there. And it's kind of combat oriented. You know, you can spend a good 2 to 3 hours in this area if you want, or you can do the 3 main temples that are separate from the 11 other things and just kind of blow through it. I appreciate that you can do that. I feel like the reward you get for doing everything is actually quite helpful for Uncharted, and I kind of wish all the other Uncharted games had this thing you get. Oh, wait, I'm in spoilers. You get a thing that, like, vibrates when you're near a treasure and lights up some and makes a noise, you know, and it's optional. You can turn it off when you get it. But it's nice to, like, not... I'd rather play through an Uncharted game with that and look for things than just have a guide open the entire time, you know? Just trying to get these treasures and grind them out for trophies or completion or whatever. I think this is a nice kind of middle ground, and you have to do a lot of gameplay to get it, so it's cool, right? It's not like the game just throws it at you for, like, rolling the credits. Like, you gotta still work for it. And I really like that. It's a shame the other games will probably never get that unless they get reported, but I really like that. That chapter in general, I think it was just long enough. I think there was just enough to do there. All the places, all the little, like, side areas you can go to fight and stuff and kind of explore a little bit. I really enjoyed all of it. I just think there was a really good balance there, and I really appreciate that you can take it at your own pace and everything. One thing that may get frustrating for people if you do, say, 7 temples and decide to move on, you have to play through the game again to get back to that chapter, or I guess you can chapter select, but you can't just, like, always go back to the open area. Like, once you've advanced the story at that point, you gotta continue and beat the game. So there's some warning for you, but if you're watching this, you already have spoilers, you've probably beaten the game, so whatever. But yeah, as for the rest of the game, I think none of the areas left that much of an impression. I appreciated some of the puzzles. I think they were, for the most part, the main puzzles in the linear chapters were interesting. Nothing like stood out, but nothing was so bad that it stands out for being bad either. I think everything's very comfortable, and I think that's probably the best way to describe this entire game, actually, is very comfortable. It doesn't shake it up too much, and it doesn't not do enough of the stuff that makes Uncharted what it is. It's just a very pleasant comfort ride from start to finish. The fun factor, I've been going back and forth on this. I don't feel comfortable placing this in, like, a ranking of my favorite games in this series. If you need reference, I'm one of those weirdos who thinks 4, 3, 2, 1 from favorite to least favorite. So I'm sure you could, if you haven't already clicked off the video, you just did. But this is a very nice contrast to 4 in that it is very, very lean and mean. It knows what it's doing. It gets there quick. If you want, you can probably beat the game in like 6 or 7 hours. It doesn't drag on. There's no points where I'm like, ugh, why isn't this over? If anything, I actually kind of wish the game was a little longer, because I was getting so much more invested into it by the end than I thought I would, you know. It really ramps up well at the end, and I was really, really enjoying everything from the end onward. And there were a few points where I thought the game was about to give me the final boss fight and roll credits, and it didn't, and I was so happy it didn't every time, because I was just so happy to keep getting more of what was going on. I would have been very happy with like another hour or 2 of gameplay, but I'm glad they didn't drag it out too long. It's very nice to have a short Uncharted game that isn't the first Uncharted game, I think is what I'm trying to say. Because as much as I enjoy 2 and 3, those games can get a little long in the teeth, and 4 definitely can get a little long in the teeth. I appreciate 4 for what it did, but it's a very long game, relatively. And this is just some random thing I thought to bring up. I just really like that, like, near the start of the game, I think around the time you meet Nadine, you instantly do 2 things that I'm pretty sure... I know one was definitely in Uncharted 2, and I'm trying to remember. I'm sure I'll get corrected in the comments. Like, one of the first things you do when you get to this area with Nadine, you there are some like signposts hanging around in the India section of like advertisements, and you jump on them and like go around them. And I think you could do a fair bit of that in Uncharted 2 after that truck chased you down the back alley. And another thing is like there'll be a ladder just out of reach, so it's like, oh come on, you know, give me a boost. And Nadine like instantly goes, ugh. And I feel like there was very self-aware, like prodding fun at those mechanics. Just instantly be like, oh, you're the Uncharted 2 character, here's some Uncharted 2 things, and oh, by the way, yeah, okay, we're not going to do too much of that. Haha, yeah, we did a lot of boost stuff in 2. Oops. You know, I just really appreciated that self-awareness. I'm not sure if that was intentional, or if it was even meant to be, like, poking fun at itself. Maybe it was taking itself seriously, and like, oh, you know, fans will appreciate this. But, yeah, I don't know. I just, going into this, I was feeling Uncharted fatigue, and I was like, I'm not sure I even want another Uncharted, but I'm renting it, so it's a low risk on my end. If I get tired of it, it's only $3. But I was very happy with it, you know. I'd like there to be a good amount of years before another Uncharted hits, but I would be very okay with, say, another Chloe game down the road, or let another character take the lead, because with this character work and like this comfortable of a game, if they did something similar to Lost Legacy, I would be very happy. I suggest that if you get a chance to play this, do not pass up on it, but don't go rushing out because it's not this amazing, you know, super like world-shattering experience. It's just very comfortable, very, very palatable, very fun, but ultimately it's just kind of, you know, one and done kind of thing, and it probably won't stick on your mind the way the other Uncharted's have, which is a shame considering the studio's pedigree, but not a bad thing overall. So if you made it this far, I appreciate you listening. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts if you played the game. So write me down below, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.
In the clear.
This video was generously supported by the following patrons on Patreon. Thank you.